Good morning and welcome to Wellington's Hurricane Preparedness and Flood Control Workshop. I'm Gloria Kelly and will be your moderator for this meeting. As a reminder, all attendees are on listen-only mode and this meeting is being recorded. If you have any questions during this meeting, please submit them in the Q&A icon, which is visible by tapping your screen on your mobile device or hovering your mouse over your screen if using a desktop or laptop. The icon will then appear on the top or bottom. We will answer any questions at the conclusion of the presentations. At this time, I would like to introduce our village manager, Jim Barnes.
Good morning. Thank you, Gloria. As Gloria mentioned, I am Jim Barnes, Wellington's village manager, and like to welcome everybody and thank everybody for joining us this morning for our hurricane and flood control virtual webinar and meeting. And hopefully all the attendees will get a little bit more information out of today's webinar and virtual meeting that can prepare better for the upcoming hurricane season that started June 1st. It looks like, one thing we do as the village is try and provide a lot of the basic services our residents need. But one thing I think a resident in Wellington can also expect, and certainly anybody who's lived in Wellington for any period of time understands that we're here and available even when most are not. Given that in a storm event, emergency event, any kind of flooding event, our crews remain on site and provide the required services that are necessary to keep our residents safe and our community safe. And as a result, we spend a lot of time in the off season preparing for hurricane season. Between our emergency management director and our public works and utilities emergency teams that try and plan and expect the unexpected, together with our partners at the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office and Palm Beach County Fire Rescue, we are confident that we certainly have prepared as much as possible for the upcoming season. From what we've seen and what we've been told by the different agencies out there, it looks like that this hurricane season that we're in, we can expect anywhere between 13 to 20 storms, and probably around 6 to 10 of those could become actual hurricanes, and 3 to 5 could be major hurricanes. Now, all that being said, that's still all a best guess, scientific best guess based on the historical data and existing weather conditions that we have. So really, what we just need to know going into the season is that we're planning for the worst and we're hoping for the best. And based on that, one thing that I think we've certainly provided to our residents is some kind of assurance that notwithstanding what individual families do to prepare, our residents can expect that our system is in its best operating shape possible. For example, in the last 5 to 7 years, we have continued on an annual basis to continue preventive maintenance and regular scheduled maintenance of our surface water management system that is able to handle storms better and be able to recover much more quickly than previously able to, as far as the storms and water events. So that allows our community to be able to weather the storm, so to speak, a lot better and get us back to normal operating conditions as quickly as possible. Because that's ultimately the intent is while everybody prepares for it and during the storm we suspend a lot of regular activities, the goal is to get back to normal activities and normal operations as quickly as possible. So with that being said, while the agencies do not expect this season to be as busy as last year, it only takes one storm to devastate a community, and that's the reason we do all this planning, and that's the reason we're here today, is to provide as much information to you so that you can prepare your family, you can prepare your home, you can prepare your property for the eventuality that we may have a very tragic storm event, and be prepared for it otherwise, so that we can all weather the storm safely and come out on the other side safe and coming back together again as a community. With that, I'll turn it back over to Gloria, and hopefully the rest of the webinar will be very informative for you. And as always, if you have any other questions, we're always available. You can reach out to any of our departments for any questions you may have, and we'll be sure to find out the answer for you and get it to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jim. Next, I would like to introduce South Florida Water Management District's Regional Representative, Libby Pigman.
Hi, I'm Libby Pigman. I'm the Regional Representative for South Florida Water Management District. And today I'm going to be speaking with you about managing floodwater before and after the storm. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. Okay. Let's see. I'm having a hard time advancing my slide.
Libby, would you like me to share it on my screen? Would that work?
Sure.
Okay.
If you could go to the next slide. Okay. Let me just. Okay. So South Florida is considered the subtropics. It's hot and wet and was once covered by marshes and swamps. And only the lands along the shore and a few tree islands were fit for human habitation. Next slide, please. Our terrain is low and flat, and seasonal rainfall can be intense. Next slide, please. But now, the land is home to more than 8.7 million people. How did this happen? Surely air conditioning and mosquito control helped, but the design, construction, and operation of a connected flood control system played a major role in opening South Florida to development. Next slide, please. Today, the expanded central and southern flood system, along with the completed Everglades stormwater treatment areas and the Big Cypress Basin Canal Network, comprise one of the largest and most complex water management systems in the world. We have approximately 4,310 miles of canals, 4,310 miles of levees, over 762 water control structures, 621 culverts, and 89 pumping stations. Next slide, please. The role of South Florida Water Management District is to monitor weather conditions and water levels around the clock. In preparation for the storm, we will open gates to lower the water levels in our primary canals in anticipation of expected inflows. And during and after heavy rains, we will route excess water through waterways to storage or coastal discharge points. Next slide, please. Optimum flood control is a three-tiered system, functioning much like a roadway system. Next slide, please. It starts in your community. In a neighborhood, excess water drains first into swales, ditches, and stormwater grates. It flows from this tertiary stormwater system to then secondary canals. Then it is carried to the larger primary canals that lead to regional storage or to the coast. Next slide, please. Secondary canals connect to farm and neighborhood systems. Those canals go through your neighborhoods or homeowners association controlled drainage systems, sometimes called the tertiary systems. Secondary systems are maintained by the city, county, or special districts. Next slide, please. The three systems must all work together. The water has to move through those major canals to receive inflows and move water into storage onto the coast. Next slide, please. The interconnected system achieves maximum benefit when the various responsible entities keep all components in good working order. As in a chain of dominoes, one section must properly connect to the next to allow for the drainage of excess stormwater. Next slide, please. But even with well-engineered and maintained systems, rains may overwhelm existing facilities and flooding may still occur. Next slide, please. Surface waters cannot receive new water if they are full or flow is blocked. Another key point to remember is that as the ground becomes saturated with regular rains, as it usually does in summertime, there is more likelihood of surface water ponding or standing water in streets and yards after a downpour as the season progresses. Next slide, please. Floodwater cannot soak into the ground if the water table is high, resulting in ponding and standing water. And we have three categories of storms at the district. The first is a road storm. And a road storm is 4 to 6 inches of rain in a 24-hour period. In a road storm, you will experience standing water in your yard, swales, and ditches, but the crowns of the road should remain passable. Next slide, please. High tides and onshore winds inhibit discharge capability to the coast. Next. Older neighborhoods with no or limited community drainage systems in place are prone to flooding. The second type of storm is a design storm. A design storm is defined as 7 to 10 inches of rain in a 72-hour period. Roads, ditches, and yards flood, but buildings should remain dry. And the third type of storm that we experience or categorize in Florida is a 100-year storm. That doesn't mean those type of storms only occur every 100 years. It is defined as 10 to 20 inches of rain in a 72-hour period or more. Many houses or businesses can expect to be flooded with that type degree of rain. Next slide. Communities play a key role in managing flood situations. Homeowners associations, property managers, and residents all play a role in managing flood situations by maintaining community stormwater systems. Just as people up north check their heating systems prior to winter, residents in South Florida should inspect, maintain, and repair drainage systems before the rainy season. And inspections should be repeated when a major storm threatens. Keep in mind that permitted systems have specific engineering requirements. So be sure to check with South Florida Water Management District or your local drainage district if you have questions. Next slide, please. Utilize storm-wise landscaping and trim landscaping prior to the storm season. As the storm approaches, secure lawn and patio furniture before a storm so that it doesn't enter the drainage system. Next slide, please. System components should be unobstructed. Look in your yard and your neighborhood. If you see obstructions on storm grates, notify your homeowners associations, or if they don't have a homeowners association, your community, to ask them to help remove those obstructions. Next slide, please. Swales and grass water storage areas convey and store water, help to recharge water in the underground aquifer, and improve water quality by catching sediment and filtering nutrients. These areas may need to be regraded or stabilized. Regular mowing is essential because high grass impedes water flow. Next slide, please. Find out if your drainage system is inspected regularly and check to see if trash, dead vegetation, and sediments are being removed. All sizes, depths, heights, lengths, and side slopes must meet any permit specifications. Next slide, please. Make sure that right-of-ways are cleared, and that's when, if you see in this photo, Before, there's a lot of trees and vegetation, like Brazilian peppers, invasives, and the district regularly goes through and clears out vegetation. So you can see the before photo and the after photo. And the reason we do that is to help make sure that during a storm, those trees and vegetation don't fall into our system and block the drainage. And so that should also be being done in your community as well. Next slide, please. So understanding your regional flood control system is knowing that South Florida is flat, the rains are seasonal, and most drainage occurs through a series of water control structures and facilities. Drainage is interconnected. Home drainage is connected to community drainage, which is connected to a county or local system, which is then connected to our regional system. Drainage systems require maintenance and repair, and action is needed before the rainy season. Changes that go beyond or conflict with existing permits require review and authorization before proceeding. If in doubt, ask first. Next slide. Make sure you keep a list of pertinent numbers and websites for reporting drainage problems. Your homeowners association, property manager, city, county, and local drainage districts, and then ultimately the South Florida Water Management District. Next slide. We work year-round to prepare for the rainy season. Are you ready? Next slide. For more information, you can visit our website, southfloridawatermanagementdistrict.gov. And on our website, you can look up any 298 districts that you may belong to, and you can search your address and find out who's responsible for drainage in your area. Thank you for the opportunity to share this quick overview with you today. For more information, please visit us on our website. You can also check out our Twitter account and our Facebook page. You'll find fact sheets, animations, key contacts, links to current weather, and more. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Libby. At this time, if anyone has any questions for Libby, you can go ahead and type them into the Q&A box, and we can answer those. And we did receive one question. Will the slides with contact information be posted on the Wellington website? Yes, we will be posting those on the Wellington website, as well as all participants today will be receiving an email with all of our presenters' contact information on it as well.
While your concerns are valid.
Okay, so actually our next presenter will be able to answer those questions in regards to the drainage issues within your Wellington community if it does not have an HOA. Thank you very much, Libby, for participating in our flood control this morning. And next, I'd like to introduce our village engineer, Jonathan Bridesville.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Rhinesville, the village engineer with the Village of Wellington here. And I did have a presentation to give to you guys about flood control. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. Hopefully I'll have less issues. Otherwise, Gloria's going to be working overtime. Okay. Can you guys see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. And when I move forward, it goes. Just making sure.
Jonathan, actually, let me go ahead. I'll share it on my side only because it's showing the presenter side of your presentation. So let me go ahead.
Oh,
I'll share it
okay.
on
Well,
mine.
I can,
Yeah.
hold on. I can switch that.
Okay.
Let me just make sure. There we go. Is that better?
It's minimized on the screen, but I think we can make that work.
Oh, no, that's not good. Oh. I think it's actually better just kind of going through it this way. Let me try one more time and then I'll concede. Oh, I see, because this is on my it's on my half screen, or on my vertical screen, I should say. Okay, I don't know how to change that. So yeah, let's let Gloria go ahead and do that.
Okay, give me one moment.
Oh, you know, Gloria, I made some changes to it, so I'm gonna have to do it. I forgot.
Okay,
Yeah.
no problem.
Okay. Let me just keep it on here. All right. I'll just keep it on the presenter screen. I don't have any notes on there anyway or anything like that. So I think it'll be better off for everybody to see it this way. So anyway, this is our presentation from the Village of Wellington, the community's role in flood control. I'll give you a little history, a brief history of the Village of Wellington here. In the 1950s, Mr. Charles Oliver Wellington, who was an accountant from Massachusetts, purchased 18,000 acres of swampland located south of Southern Boulevard. Mr. Wellington named the property Flying Cow Road because he was an aviator and his initials spelled cow, Charles Oliver Wellington. In 1959, after Mr. Oliver died, his son sold 1,200 acres to Arthur William Bink Glisson. Soon, farmers began buying and leasing portions of Flying Cow Road, and Wellington had over 2,000 acres of strawberry patches, making Wellington the largest strawberry patch in the world, which I recently learned at a council meeting a couple nights ago. In 1972, the property was sold to a Fort Lauderdale developer known as the Investment Corporation of Florida. At this time, the Palm Beach County Board of County Commissioners approved the area for the Acme Drainage District, and the Acme Improvement District was formed. And here's some pictures, some historical pictures of Wellington pre-development and on Charles Oliver Wellington's airfield. And there's another picture of the airfield. I believe that's some of the strawberry patches through there. And there's some older photos of some people working the strawberry patches. Pretty cool stuff there. The history of Village of Wellington continued. In the 1970s, development continued on December 31st, 1995. So all the way through the 70s and 80s and 90s and still up to today, Wellington was under development, heavy development in the 70s and 80s. In 1995, the Village of Wellington incorporated, and in April of 1996, the Acme Improvement District became a dependent district of the Village of Wellington. And here's a nice picture of our founders back in 1996. It's kind of hard to see here, but you can see back in 1996 when Wellington was incorporated, the development that's occurred since, mostly on the southern half of the Village of Wellington and what we call Acme Basin B, the equestrian area. And we've had heavy development in the last 15 years in that area, which continues through today. So we'll get into the how is flood control managed. We have a 3-tiered system. It's like it's almost a public-private partnership between the residential communities, the businesses, and the Village of Wellington and the South Florida Water Management District. It's not really a public-private partnership. It's kind of like it. where the residential communities and businesses have to maintain their own systems. They're on the private side, where they have to make sure that their systems are cleaned. And then the drainage makes its way over into the Village of Wellington Acme Improvement District drainage system. And eventually it makes its way into the South Florida Water Management master system. And I'll get more detailed into that as these slides go on. A coordinated effort between all parties is needed to ensure that the stormwater is discharged at the proper rate and time for flood control. And also while retaining as much water as possible for conservation and to reduce the environmental impacts, meaning we can't lower the stage of the canals too low, otherwise that has adverse effects to the environment. And here's kind of a graphic of showing what I was saying. You have the private lake there, and that makes its way into the Acme Improvement District and eventually makes its way up to the north to the South Florida Water Management District, C51 Canal. Wellington's flood control responsibilities. We monitor the storm events and coordinate with other agencies such as South Florida Water Management District and the Palm Beach County Emergency Management before, during, and after the storm. We operate the water control system within the limits of our operating permit, which are very strict, and it's through the South Florida Water Management District. We will not lower below regulation levels, meaning we have a control elevation. We do not go below that control elevation. Sometimes it goes below the control elevation, but that's due to lack of rainfall. Wellington may allow communities to open their control structures to lower their lake system as long as we have excess capacity. And what we do during the storms or before the storms, if we have a named storm coming towards us, Wellington representatives will make their way to each and every HOA that has a control structure and try to get with the property manager and let them know, let's open up those control structures to make sure that you guys can discharge as quickly as possible during the storm. Continuation of that, continual maintenance of the canals, right-of-ways, and water control structures to allow for free flow of water is a very important maintenance item. Continual outreach and education to residents, such as this presentation, boards and property managers. And note, unless authorization is given, all community control structures must be in their permitted configuration and locked. This is especially important during the storm event to prevent the possible black flow of canal into the community's lake system. So that's why we like to make sure that everybody has their control structures as permitted unless otherwise authorized. And when I say otherwise authorized, that's when the Wellington representative will come to your community and let you know to open up your control structure prior to the storm event. So here's some good examples of maintenance issues that we've run into. Some coconuts blocking a drainage basin, some leaves. That happens quite a bit, leaves blocking the drainage structures. And this is kind of hard to see, but it's a blower, a maintenance worker blowing leaves into a catch basin. That's a common maintenance issue. Weeds overgrowing a catch basin. And this is more of a Village of Wellington maintenance issue, but this is our trash rake system at a pump station, which we take care of. And this is something, I guess they were using their control structure as some sort of planter or a tree grew into it or something. And these pictures were intended to show some right-of-way encroachments, so trees within the easements and that sort of thing. And we try to keep our easements as clear as possible. And moving on to the Scada system. So this is the supervisory control and data acquisition system that we utilize for the Village of Wellington. This is how we monitor all of our pump stations and all of our rainfall. So at any given time, our water control managers can look at this screen, this VT Scada screen over here, and we can see how much rainfall we got today, how much rainfall we got yesterday, what the water level is leading up to the pump station, what the water level is on the outside of the pump station or on the outfall side of the pump station, and we'll be able to make any adjustments accordingly. It automates the operation of 8 major water control structures within the Wellington service boundary, and it allows for the remote operation of flood control gates and pumps to react immediately to changes in water. This is an overview of the Acme Improvement District for the Village of Wellington. We have 8 major pump stations, over 91 miles of canals and right-of-way, over 360 acres of public lakes, 6 major conveyance canals that run south to north, the C1 through the C7, or C1 through the C6, I'm sorry. 5 equalizer canals that run east and west, 7 major gravity control structures, again, 8 pumping stations and over 45 square miles of municipal boundary. We're very much eclipsed by the South Florida Water Management District system that was just shown, but we do have a very large system that we continually operate and maintain on a continuous basis. This is some photos of our everyday maintenance that we go through, or I should say yearly maintenance program that we have with our program. On the top left there, you have a long stick boom, we call it, to regrade the canal banks. You have a trash rake boat here. On the top right, you have that same trash rake boat. And on the bottom left, they're showing a pipelining project there where they go in and reline the pipes to take care of the tertiary system. And there's some bottom middle, there's some swell regrading, and again, another long stick boom on the bottom right of the canal regrading. Here's some more pictures of it. The Canal Rehabilitation Program includes removal of vegetative encroachments, removal of structural and non-structural encroachments, dredging of the canal channel, reshaping or reconstruction of the canal bank. And just of note here, canal access is a critical component to the overall public safety and flood control, meaning if we can't get in there to maintain it, then we would have trouble down the road when a storm does come to pass. So we try to keep those canal banks free and clear as much as possible. Sometimes we run into issues with overgrown trees and that sort of thing. And a lot of times we'd have to actually get down there with a dredging machine and a barge, and that's shown in the middle picture there. So what to expect in a flood, in a rainfall event, major rainfall event, I should say. And I'll just run through these. In a 5 to 6 inch rainfall received over a 24-hour period, we typically call this the 5-year 1-hour storm or 5-year 24-hour storm. And you'll have some standing water in your yards, swales, and some of your ditches. The crowns of your residential community roads should remain dry and passable, though there might be some local flooding, and we know which neighborhoods are prone to flooding. And if anybody has any questions on that, you can certainly send them our way, and we'll show you on a map where we know. Between 7 to 9 inches of rainfall is received in a if we receive 7 to 9 inches of rainfall in a 72-hour period, typically known as our tenure storm, the residential community swales, roads, lawns, and driveways will flood as designed. Finished floors of homes should remain dry. That's our tenure storm. It's not enough rain to flood the finished floors. Between 10 and 20, and moreover 15 to 20, which I have yet to see in my career at Wellington or in my career in South Florida, a 15 to 20 inch rainfall in a 72-hour period. Homes and businesses may experience finished floor flooding, but you're likely to receive finished floor flooding in a 15 to 20 year rainfall. Now, not to say that'll happen. It could happen. What we have our design storm to is a 100-year 3-day design storm, which is 11 inches, but it should also be noted that we had Tropical Storm Isaac back in 2012 that dropped 12.3 inches of rain over 3 days, and we did not receive a single finished floor encroachment, meaning nobody flooded. And here's some pictures of these items. That's your 5-year storm, 10-year storm, 100-year storm, over 100-year storm, sorry. Just to be clear, we are protected during our designed 100-year storm and above, as shown in the Tropical Storm Isaac storm. If we got a 15 to 20 inch rainfall, then we would be in some trouble. Several internal lakes may be connected by underground pipes, which eventually discharge to the Wellington canals. This is coming from the roadways and from the neighborhoods. Proper maintenance requires inspection and cleaning of these pipes and connections. Depending on the age of the infrastructure, this could be as often as every 3 to 5 years. Replacement and major repairs can be expected in approximately 30 years after placement of the pipes. So we have a pipelining program and a major maintenance program where we go through and we find the worst of the worst, and we either pipeline them, replace them, or maintain them appropriately. And we go through that yearly, and it's a continual maintenance thing that is on the books to do every year. So going into the community stormwater structures. So the slide's titled, "Do you know your community's discharge control structure?" So there are two general types of discharge control structures. They are both designed to work without human intervention. You have a fixed control structure and an operable, meaning fixed, meaning you don't do anything to it. It's just a piece of concrete, usually a concrete wall inside of a catch basin that stops the water from coming through, and that's it. And then there's an operable control structure, which typically have a wheel on top. An operable control structure will have an adjustable plate and can be manipulated to raise, thus providing additional water storage for an impending rain event. And here's some examples. The operables are on the left there, and they have a wheel on top where you can operate the weir accordingly. As you can see, there's a lock on it, and typically you're not allowed to, per permit conditions, you're not allowed to operate it unless there's an impending emergency, which is typically a hurricane or some other large rain event. The middle structure shows how a control structure works. It basically holds the water back from the community and discharges it at a controlled rate into the existing Acme facilities. And on the right is examples of fixed control structures. And if you look on the bottom right, there's a weir plate shown there. And you can't do anything to that. You're basically stuck with what you have. Not that that's a bad thing. We suggest, well, let me go back there. So we want to make sure that on the bottom right structure, actually all the control structures, they're free and clear of encumbrances and debris, just to make sure that should be done on a yearly basis through the HOAs. We suggest creating a community drainage committee, provide for inspection and maintenance of the community's drainage system to ensure internal control structures, swales, drains, and outfall pipes have an unobstructed flow. Members of this committee should be year-round residents, since rainfall in South Florida is all year long, and be physically fit to operate control structures and navigate lake and canal banks. And the drainage committees may consist of one or all of the following: board members, residents, and property managers. Typically, when we go out to the site, we have to get a hold of the property manager to find out where the control structure is or to get access to it. It's not typically a board member or a resident, although it would be a very good idea that board members and residents have a very good understanding of how the drainage system works inside their community. Here's a brief slide about our Wellington Environmental Preserve Area. We have a 365-acre rainwater storage area known as Section 24. It has nature trails and learning centers. It's built through a partnership with South Florida Water Management District. In compliance with the 1994 Everglades Forever Act, Wellington has a permit requirement for the amount of phosphorus in the water before it enters the Everglades. This system helps regulate those phosphorus amounts in the in the water before it goes into the C51 canal to the north. The southern half of Wellington Basin B has 9,230 acres of stormwater runoff that is now rerouted west to section 24. It leaves section 24 via the C1 canal, heading north to the C51 canal that runs along State Road 80 before finally entering the Everglades. So every bit of our stormwater discharge, when we're pumping, will eventually make its way out of the village and into the C51 canal and over into the Everglades. So it's of paramount importance that we keep our phosphorus levels low, and we have a phosphorus monitoring program to make sure that stays that way. Here's some pictures of our Wellington drainage facilities. Top left is an outfall structure for one of or some outfall pipes for one of our pump stations. Top middle is a pump station. Top right is a riprap bank. Bottom left is pump station number 3 with newly constructed riprap banks on the side. And that's another picture of pump station 3 on the bottom middle. And the bottom right is a nice picture of our trash rigs, which is our intake side. Here's another picture of pump station number 3. And remember, this is kind of funny, I guess. Remember, flood control is not rocket science. Maintenance is the key. We need to maintain the system that we have, make sure all the facilities are clear. We do our part, and what we're asking for is the HOAs and residents and businesses to do their part as well. And any questions, you can call Public Works Department at 791-4003 or visit our website at the link below. Also follow us on Facebook and Twitter. And here's a lovely picture of our current village council. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Jonathan, we did have a question earlier from a resident asking who they should contact if they have drainage issues seen in the community, but their community does not have an HOA.
Sure, yeah, so that would be the Public Works Department at 791-4003. Or they can visit the website at that link and they can put in a web QA for any questions that they might have.
Thank you very much, Jonathan.
Yeah.
And again, if anyone has any questions, you can add them to the Q&A and we can answer those accordingly. Next, I would like to introduce our Village of Wellington Emergency Management Director, Nicole Coats.
Hey, Nicole, I think you're on mute.
Thanks, Gloria. As she mentioned, I'm Nicole Coats, the Village of Wellington's Emergency Management Director, and it's my honor to introduce our next panelist. With over 30 years of experience at the National Weather Service in the Miami field office, we're here joined by Robert Mayeda. He's our severe weather meteorologist, and he is going to provide us a hurricane season 2021 forecast update. And just to note, the Village of Wellington does work very closely with Robert as he works with all of South Florida during storm season to provide us the latest information and what we can expect in our area here. So please welcome Robert Mayeda.
Thanks, Nicole. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be part of this. As Nicole said, we coordinate and work closely, not only with the Village of Wellington, but all of our communities in South Florida. Not only providing our routine forecasts and weather alerts for severe weather and flooding, but especially during when we have hurricane threats or any kind of tropical threat, we provide briefings and webinars to all of our local emergency managers so that everyone's informed and everyone has the information that we need in a consistent manner to pass along to our residents and really to the entire community. So I'm going to talk a bit about the outlook for the season. You've already heard from the from the village manager and the numbers for this season, but I'm going to put them in a little more perspective, at least from our perspective in the National Weather Service, and talk about some of the things that some of the hazards that we deal with the most. And we've already heard the rainfall and flooding, so I'm going to expand a little bit more on that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. This should work. So let me go ahead and. All right, so you should be seeing a title screen that says Preparing for Hurricane Season in South Florida. And I'm advancing now to show the outlook for the year. If you're not seeing that, let me know. But otherwise, that's what you should be seeing now. So this is the outlook for the 2021 season for the entire Atlantic Ocean. So, again, you've already heard these numbers. So when you see this, it's really important to put it in perspective. This is not a reflection of what we might expect here in Wellington or anywhere in Florida. This is a basin-wide outlook. In other words, area that covers from the west coast of Africa all the way across the Atlantic Ocean to Caribbean Sea, North America, Central America, Mexico. So it's really a very large area. So yes, the numbers do reflect above, they're above the normals, and you see the normal values are there on the right in black, and then the white numbers there, named storms, hurricanes, major hurricanes. That's the range of numbers that we're expecting for this season. This is the list of names for this year. We had one very low impact, actually no impact, tropical system in the middle of the Atlantic back in May. That was Ana. Next storm on the list is Bill, at least for now, especially for Florida. We're not expecting, there's nothing on the radar, so to speak, when it comes to any potential tropical systems impacting Florida. So for now, we're in pretty good shape, but we have a long ways to go. We have the entire season in front of us. And as we know, those of us who have been through hurricane season here in Florida, the peak of the season is August, September, and October. So that's when we really, really need to be the most ready. Just a little side note, last year, of course, was a record-breaking year. We had 30 named storms, so we had to go into the Greek alphabet once we ran out of the names from our normal list. But we ran into a lot of issues with that last year, with just the names sounding similar. They were rather confusing to some people, at least. So the decision was made to not use the Greek alphabet anymore as far as that alternate list. So the alternate list will be a list that's names that are more familiar to us, English, Spanish, and some French names as well. So if we exhaust the normal list, which we hope we don't, but if we do, then we would go to this alternate list that will not be the Greek alphabet from here on out. So what are some of the factors behind the outlook of an above normal season this year? Well, we're in an era, actually it goes back to 1995, of above normal or more active hurricane seasons in the Atlantic Ocean. Again, this era started back in 1995, and we believe that it's part of a naturally occurring phase that we've seen in the past. These phases that occur about 20 to 40 years in length of more activity, followed by similar periods of fewer storms or lower activity. So we're in this active era now. Again, we've been in this era for about 25 years. We don't know when this active phase is going to end. It could be in the very near future. It could take several more years. We just don't know. The bottom line is that given that we're still in this active era, that's one of the main factors leading to the outlook for this season for being above normal. We also have warmer than normal sea surface temperatures over a good part of the tropical and subtropical Atlantic Ocean, which again points us towards more activity. We think that the tropical waves that will be moving off the coast of Africa, which is a yearly occurrence, but those that move off the coast of Africa and enter the tropical Atlantic, especially during the peak of hurricane season, we expect a more vigorous activity, or at least these tropical waves will be stronger, more vigorous. And when they move off the coast and move over the warm Atlantic waters, they have a better chance of forming into tropical systems. And also, there's nothing really out there that we feel it will suppress or limit the storm activity this year. Normally, we look at things like the El Nino pattern, which is a global temporary, if you will, weather pattern or weather cycle, which leads to suppressing or lowering the number of storms in the Atlantic Ocean. We don't see that this year. So again, there's nothing out there that leads us to believe that the activity in general will be limited. Now, will it be like 2020? Very, very difficult to have a year like that, such a record-breaking year, 2 years in a row. So we're not expecting a repeat of 2020, but again, we are expecting that the activity overall will be above normal. But I have to, I say this every year, and this year, just as well as any other year, meteorologists, we have no skill in forecasting where storms are going to go, where they're going to form, what areas are going to affect months from now. The weather patterns that determine that, we just simply can't see this far out in time. So this seasonal outlook doesn't really tell us one way or the other what our chances here in Wellington and really Florida in general are of being hit. We've been hit by hurricanes in very active years. We've been hit by hurricanes in inactive years, and everything in between. Last year I think was a classic example. Record-breaking number of storms. Yet South Florida did not get hit by a hurricane. We got a couple of tropical storms, but no hurricane. So again, we should not be basing, and hopefully we're not basing our preparation this year based solely on that forecast. That forecast could be 100% accurate, but it's not telling us it's not saying whether Florida will get hit or not. That's not the intent and purpose of that seasonal forecast. I just want to make sure that I mention that. And I mention this in every presentation that I give leading up to hurricane season. One of the things that we need to be especially mindful of here in South Florida, being a highly hurricane-prone area, historically speaking, is that we're seeing an increasing trend in storms that are rapidly intensifying. In other words, that's at some point during their life cycle, storms go through what's called a rapid intensification phase, and that's defined as storms in which their winds increase by 35 miles an hour or more within a 24-hour period or less. So they go through a rapid increase in strength over a short time period. Last year, we saw 2 of those. Well, we saw 10 overall last year, which was more than any year that we've been keeping track of this in the past. 2 of those 10 were Category 4s that made landfall in Nicaragua in November, 2 weeks apart in virtually the same spot. And those 2 increased, they had the winds increased by 80 miles an hour over a short period of time. Just incredible intensification over a very short period of time. And again, we think this is a trend that will probably continue, where we'll see more of these storms occurring over the Atlantic basin. So that requires us to really be skilled as meteorologists in forecasting when these rapid intensification phases could begin, and forecast those so people can prepare for those. Still a big challenge, and we're doing better, but it's certainly something that we're going to have to be very mindful of. And I think this stat here will hopefully bring that point home to us here in South Florida. We've had, as far back as we can go with reliable records, so over 100 years, there have been 4 hurricanes that have made landfall in the United States as a Category 5. And you see them there on the screen. Michael in 2018, the Florida Panhandle. Andrew in 1992 in South Miami-Dade County. Camille in 1969 along the Gulf Coast of Louisiana and Mississippi. And the Labor Day 1935 hurricane, which hit the Florida Keys. So 3 of those 4 hit Florida. here's the stat that I really want people to remember. All 4 of those that hit the US as Category 5s were tropical storms only 72 hours before landfall. So they went through a rapid intensification cycle right before hitting Florida, 3 of those 4. So if it's happened before, it could very easily happen again. We hope it doesn't happen. We hope that it takes, be a very long time from now, but we have to be ready because Florida especially is highly prone due to many factors to these rapidly intensifying systems just offshore. So we can't assume that every storm is going to give us a long time for us to track and a long time for us to get ready for. Sometimes these storms form very quickly and almost on top of us. So it stresses why it's so important for us to keep track of the forecasts and keep track of what's going on when, especially as we enter the peak of the season. And this really is the standout graphic for me. This is our hurricane history in South Florida. And I picked West Palm Beach here as a spot. It could have very easily been Wellington. Wellington and West Palm Beach are pretty close. Since 1865, we've had 37 hurricanes in which the center of those storms have passed within 65 miles of West Palm Beach. So most of these were direct hits. Some of them were very, very near misses, but we still felt something from them. So again, it just emphasizes the point that no matter what the outlook is, we have to be ready every season because we are, historically speaking, history tells us that we are in a highly hurricane-prone area. Now, the thing about the tropical storms and hurricanes is that they're not just about one thing. Yes, we think about the wind a lot, obviously, and that's important, but as has been stressed already, flooding is also a major concern with every tropical system, and especially based on our history here in South Florida. When we look at the Saffir-Simpson scale, and we're all familiar with the scale, the scale that goes from 1 to 5. 1 is for winds of 74 to 95 miles per hour. You go up the scale all the way to Category 5, which are winds of 157 miles an hour or greater. This is a wind scale. It's not a scale that can be transferred equally to the other hazards of the storm. So we want to make sure that we keep that in mind, especially when it comes to storms that may be of lower category or maybe a tropical storm. It doesn't mean that the impacts are going to be minimal. It means that just from the wind perspective, maybe that it doesn't suggest major damage, but those storms can be quite wet. They can bring a lot of rainfall, and so the rainfall hazard, the flooding hazard from that storm could be at a much different level than the wind potential hazard. So we have to remember that, especially in an area where we've been affected by that type of flooding before. We just heard, heard some statistics on rainfall amounts over different time periods. So I've had this slide, and I think this is a good opportunity to show it here. Is a lot of people sometimes get confused. What exactly is what is a 100-year storm? A 1 in 100-year storm means that there's a 1% chance that in that specific spot that event could occur. So if you're required to purchase flood insurance as part of the National Flood Insurance Program based on these FEMA-based flood maps, and if your location's in a 1 in 100-year floodplain, that means that there's a 1% chance for any year that area could experience flooding. But it's cumulative. So let's say, for example, you have a 30-year mortgage and you're in your home over a 30-year period, there's a 26% chance. It adds up. Now, it's not 30% because I think that 1% is actually rounded up. But over a 30-year period, there's a 26% chance or really more than a 1 in 4 chance of flooding occurring in our property. So I think it's very important when we put this information in perspective. Another thing about rainfall rates, and we heard the description of, for example, the 4 to 6 inch rain amounts over 24-hour periods is considered a road storm, and then you have the 7 to 10 inch amounts considered a design storm. But we also have to consider the rate in which the rain falls. We've seen in Palm Beach County, just very recently, actually, just last year, we've seen events in which we've had 5 to 6 inches of rain in a 24-hour period. However, most, if not all of that fell like in a 1 or 2 hour period, and that led to severe flooding. See, so it's not just the amount of rain, it's the rate at which it falls. So you could have 4 inches of rain in 1 hour, which is the equivalent to about maybe a 25 or 50 year event, if you will, and that could cause problems. So we have to keep that in mind as well. So when we forecast rain amounts, and when we're forecasting these amounts over, let's say, for example, a 24-hour period or a 72-hour period, we always say that locally much higher amounts are possible. And again, by local, we could just be talking about one neighborhood. We could be talking about just a street that could have much higher amounts than, or really, much higher amounts than are reflected in that area-wide forecast that we show. So keep that in mind when you hear rainfall forecasts. Sometimes it's not the overall time in which that rain falls. It's the rate at which it falls. That's really most important. So when it comes to things like rainfall, for example, and wind, but any aspect of the storm, but let's focus, for example, on rainfall here. When we're tracking a storm, we base a lot of our information, or at least when we take a first look at the storm, we look at the familiar forecast cone, which is the image you see on the left. However, that forecast cone is not telling you a lot of things that we really need to know. It's not really getting specific into details as far as how much rain we might get or what the potential impacts of that rainfall forecast is, or what those impacts could be. For that, we actually produce another series of maps that complement the forecast cone and really go beyond the cone to provide localized context as far as what we could experience from the different hazards of the storm. So these maps, the map on the right is a potential, they're what we call the hurricane threat and impact maps, which are, again, for each hazard of the storm, including flooding, rainfall, and wind. We produce these maps that tell you the level of potential impact based on the rainfall that we're forecasting and based on the level of uncertainty or level of certainty that we have in that forecast track and how that might affect how much rain we get in an area. So the map on the right was showing that despite the storm on the left, this is from Tropical Storm Ada last year, despite that storm passing just south of us, the center of the storm passing south of us, we were still in an area of potential major flooding rainfall, that area there in red. And actually, most of Palm Beach County got about 5 to 6 inches of rain in about a 24 to 48 hour period. Maybe not quite as bad in Palm Beach as it was farther south, but the potential was there. With just a very slight shift northward in that forecast track, we could have seen those higher amounts up in Palm Beach County. So it's really important to put this information in context. Again, the cone is really meant to convey where the center of the storm is more likely to track. The cone does not, however, tell us what conditions we might experience and what we need to be prepared for, especially if the storm deviates a little bit from its forecast track. So this is where these graphics on the right, the ones that we produce with every forecast, we send to our emergency managers. The media gets these as well. And a lot of times the media will put these on air, again, to complement and to provide additional information that the cone fails to do. So we want to make sure that we take that in mind. We'll keep that in mind as well. So really, just to wrap up here, we know this. Hurricanes in South Florida can strike any year. It doesn't matter what level of overall activity there is. So we need to take every storm seriously. Even those lower category storms can be big rain producers. 2012, Tropical Storm Isaac produced a lot of rain in Wellington and the areas around Wellington. And that was a tropical storm that was exiting the region when we got the heaviest rainfall. So we have to be very mindful of that, not over rely on that exact forecast track, considering that they could deviate a little bit, which could play a big role into, in what impacts we could get in our area. And also to not focus too much on that storm category. And because again, the category is only a reflection of the wind speeds, not the other hazards of the storm. So weather.gov/Miami is your one-stop source for all of your South Florida weather information, and especially during hurricane season. We're going to be putting all these graphics that I've showed prominently on our webpage so that they can be used to prepare yourself, to prepare our community, and so that we're properly prepared. And so that's all I got. Be more than happy to, when it's appropriate, be more than happy to answer any questions. And there's my email address and phone number that you can reach me at. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. As we move on, I wanted to just mention that we do have Lieutenant Chavitz on the line, is a partner with us with PBSO. And as you mentioned, and as Jim Barnes mentioned, our village manager, we do a lot of preparation for hurricane season year round. And you'll see we've prepared a presentation for you today, a video presentation to see what you can do and helpful tips and guidelines on what you can do to prepare you and your family. So we hope you enjoy this presentation, and I'll go ahead and start it.
Thank you for joining us. By following the guidelines in this presentation, together we all can do our part recovering after a storm as quickly and safely as possible. Now let's take a look at the 2021 hurricane season forecast. Hurricane season is June 1st through November 30th. The 2021 hurricane season is forecasted to be above average and similar to 2020. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration is predicting 13 to 20 named storms with 6 to 10 hurricanes and 3 to 5 major hurricanes, category 3 and above, with winds of 111 miles per hour or higher. The peak of season where tropical activity increases is typically mid-August through late October. Remember, it only takes one storm, so preparation now is key. Understanding a storm. Watch versus warning. Hurricane watch means hurricane conditions, sustained winds of at least 74 miles per hour are possible in the area within 48 hours. Hurricane warning means hurricane force conditions, sustained of at least 74 miles per hour, are expected in your area in 36 hours or less. Looking at the Saffir-Simpson scale regarding the 5 categories of storms, it's important to know additional hazards beyond wind speed can include heavy rainfall and flooding. Remember, the storms category only tells you about the storm's wind speed. It does not tell you about the life-threatening rain or flooding. Did you know that 90% of the deaths after a storm involved water and not wind? This includes coastal surge, inland flooding, rip currents, and rough surf. Let's take a look at steps on how you can prepare now. Here in the village, safety of our residents is our top priority. We want to be sure you are prepared. That means taking care of your family, your home, and your pets. Make sure your gas tanks are topped off, your gas grills and generators are filled, and you have a plan to get your house shuttered. Knowing your zone is important. You can go to readypbc.com to see if you are in an evacuation area. Knowing what to do is your best protection, and it's your responsibility. Make a family disaster plan and practice it with your family members. Also create your home emergency supply kit. The time to prepare is now. Let's take a look at a disaster supply checklist. Items you want to be sure are in your disaster supply kit are listed on the screen. Be sure to have enough food and water for at least 7 days, 2 weeks worth of medication, flashlights, batteries, non-electric can openers, and special needs items such as items for infants and family members with disabilities. Check out the State of Florida Division of Emergency Management website, floridadisaster.org, as an official source for all the latest emergency plan templates for your home and business, supply kit checklists, and valuable information. Now that we have reviewed our family plans and checklists, let's talk about protecting your home. There are ways you can protect your home now, such as trimming trees away from your home. Once a storm has been named, do not cut down trees or do major yard work, or start to remove old bulky items. This puts a tremendous burden on the normal collection process. There is not enough equipment or manpower to collect the additional materials. You can not only put yourself at risk, but your neighbors as well. Another key way to protect your home is making sure you have tested and approved hurricane window coverings to put up when the storm approaches. Also, Take pictures of your home inside and outside before the storm in the event you have to file an insurance claim. Hurricane evacuation shelters. Palm Beach County operates hurricane evacuation shelters across the county. There are 15 evacuation shelters for the general population, 2 special needs shelters, and 1 pet-friendly shelter. These shelters are a refuge of last resort, a place to go if you can't stay at home or with a relative, friend, coworker, or nearby hotel. If you choose to use a shelter, shelters are not able to provide any conveniences or luxuries. Food and water might be provided, but do not rely on that. If you go to a shelter, here's what to bring: a 3-day supply of water per person, prescription and emergency medications, special diet foods, basic snacks, comfortable clothing, collapsible folding chair, baby formula, diapers and bottles, flashlight, extra batteries, a cell phone with battery-operated charger, eyeglasses and hearing aids, facial coverings, gloves, and sanitizer, and specialty items for the elderly. Palm Beach County has established a special needs shelter program to provide for citizens with certain medical conditions during a major emergency. The special needs shelter is a facility with physicians and nurses on staff. It has auxiliary electrical power, is wind resistant, and not flood prone. The shelter is not a medical facility and provides limited services. Spaces at these shelters are limited and is based on need and established criteria. You must apply in advance by completing a form online at the website on the screen. If you need to speak with a special needs coordinator, please call 561-712-6400. If you do not qualify for a special needs program and need transportation only to a shelter, you must meet the criteria and be pre-registered with PalmTran Connection. To register, call 561-649-9838. Last but certainly not least, let's talk about planning for our pets. If you plan to remain at home during a disaster, or if you plan to leave your pet at home when you evacuate, you'll need to be prepared. Be sure to have at least a 3-day supply of food and water for your pet, bedding for your pet, placed somewhere that will not be vulnerable to flooding, a collar with your pet's county rabies license tag attached. Make sure your pet's ID and rabies tag is up to date. Call 561-233-1272 to update records. After the storm. After major storms, our lives can be changed drastically. Remember, the longest part of dealing with a hurricane is the recovery process. There may be residual flooding and roads may be blocked. Never drive through flooded roadways. Treat intersections with missing non-working traffic signals or missing stop signs as 4-way stops. Obey curfews. If you evacuated out of the area, listen to local media for reentry information. Power may be out for an undetermined period of time. This means no air conditioning, no lights, no refrigeration, and no stove. Telephone service will be out or limited. This includes 911. Even if your phone works, use it only for emergencies. Sewer lift stations may not work, meaning toilets will not flush and sinks not drain. Keep safe. Be cautious of downed power lines and standing water. Picking up the pieces. Hurricanes can inundate the region with millions of tons of debris, including normal household garbage, appliances, construction demolition debris, and yard debris. A large part of the recovery process for the Village of Wellington occurs with the debris removal process. These specific guidelines must be adhered to when hauling hurricane-related debris and household garbage. Adhering to these guidelines will make for a speedier removal and cleanup process. Homeowners will be asked to separate debris into the following categories: household garbage, construction debris including drywall, building material, carpet, furniture, and mattresses, vegetative debris including tree branches, leaves, and logs, and white goods, which include appliances such as refrigerators, washers and dryers, air conditioners, and stoves. Insurance and home repairs. Before the storm, make sure you review your coverage annually with your insurance agent. Know your coverage limits as well as your deductibles. Take pictures of your home before and after the storm. This documentation will help if you need to file a claim. After the storm, inspect your home for damage and report to your insurance agent or insurance company immediately. Repairs. When help arrives, do not sign contracts until you have checked out the contractor. Do not pay in full for any services until the work has been completed. Ask for a valid contractor's license. What is Wellington doing to prepare for hurricane season? Before the storm, the village has established emergency contracts to assist with recovery efforts, such as debris contractors and mutual aid agreements. With the assistance of grant funds, the village has implemented numerous hazard mitigation projects, ranging from roadway and drainage improvements to generators at lift stations. The village coordinates with multiple agencies, including the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office, Palm Beach County Fire Rescue, Palm Beach County Division of Emergency Management, FP&L, local hospitals, and community groups, including homeowners associations, year-round. Village staff is trained and staffed to coordinate the response and recovery efforts. Throughout the year, our Surface Water Division works to ensure our canals and drainage system is clear of obstructions. Prior to landfall and during the storm. During major disasters, the Village of Wellington will activate its Emergency Operations Center. The EOC activates a call center that is staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, before and during the storm. The village provides continuous communication from village officials throughout the event through the use of social media, press advisories, and signage. Surface Water Management maintains enhanced monitoring. On-site storm teams working before, during, and after the storm secure village facilities. Village crews are deployed at various staging locations throughout the village to start clearing roadways obstructed by debris to allow for the clearance of emergency response vehicles. After the storm, the village works to restore critical community lifelines and infrastructure. In addition, recover the village physically and financially from storm-related damage. We have listed on the screen important contact information that you might find helpful. The village wants you to stay connected. Like us on Facebook and Twitter. Visit wellingtonfl.gov/storm for important storm updates. Or tune in to Comcast Channel 18 or AT&T UVerse Channel 99. Tune in to 1680 on your AM dial. Alert Wellington. The village utilizes a mass notification system called Alert Wellington. Please be sure to register yourself by visiting wellingtonfl.gov/Alert Wellington to create an account. Thank you for joining us. We want to make sure you and your families are prepared and remain safe before, during, and after any emergency event.
All right, thank you all. Hope you enjoyed that. Hope you got some valuable information. And again, Gloria will share this with you all after the meeting. I did want to share that we also have Jesse Wright here with us, who is our Operations Superintendent in Public Works. And hopefully the key takeaway is prepare yourself and your family. But we really wanted to just emphasize the debris cleanup process, and separating your debris and storm generated debris after a storm is a critical part of all of us cleaning up the village and making sure we get back to normal as quickly and safely as possible. So with that, Jesse, is there anything you'd like to add? And if we could just unmute.
Hi, Nicole. You did a very good job with the picking up the pieces and very good. So I just want to add a few things. You know, we're at the beginning of hurricane season right now, and it's time to get or be prepared, but it should be a year-round activity. But it's not too late to start. Once we're under a hurricane watch, your time or warning, your time is very limited to get ready. So what you should be doing now is start placing your tree thinnings out for pickup, branches that could do damages to your structures. Please make sure that the vegetation pieces you put out are not over 6 feet in length, 10 feet in diameter, or 50 pounds in weight, so we can get them picked up really quickly. Get rid of anything in your yard that could become a flying projectile, such as pieces of old wood, broken patio furniture, anything you've got there that could get in the way. It's time to just take it out to curbside and get rid of it and not wait. Don't cut down any trees or start any yard work or projects once we're under a watch or a warning, because our debris contractors, which right now are Waste Management, would not be able to get this picked up. There's not enough equipment or manpower to handle these additional materials, because once they get to the land transfer station, the transfer station would have lines so long they'd be waiting. So the smart thing to do right now is just start planting now, get rid of the extra things and cut your trees back. As Nicole said, we'll have crews in lockdown, and they will start clearing the major arteries as soon as the winds die down and they can get out there. But our first priority after a storm is getting garbage pickup back on track, because a lot of people lose electricity and you've got spoiled food. So we want to get that taken care of as clean as possible, and then we will get on with our cleanup. And depending on the severity of the storm, we've got anywhere from 45 to 180 days to get it picked up. What we'll have to do is have the contractors that Nicole had mentioned come into the area. We'll set up debris sites and we'll get busy cleaning up. First pass, clean vegetation only. Please do not put out anything else, because if it is anything else besides that, we'll have to pass it by for this, be picked up on the second pickup. So, and we can't pull any trucks off routes for anything special, because we'll be out there with damage assessment teams, and we will know where to start cleaning up, and we'll have 5 different debris zones here in Wellington. So just please be patient once this starts. And if you're an HOA, please make sure that you've got everything you need to have, which is your right of entries for us, or we can't go in there according to FEMA's rules. And really, that's all I got. A couple things, except everybody did it actually in Irma. Things went pretty smooth, so just keep following, but please don't put out things at the last minute. That's my most important message right now, because that really puts a strain on everybody. That's all I got.
Thank you very much, Jesse. Next, I would like to introduce Liz Nunez, our Village of Wellington Public Information Officer.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for sticking with us throughout this presentation. We have learned a lot. I have taken a lot away from this presentation. And now, finally, we want to talk to you about communication, a very essential part of any preparation that we're doing for hurricane season. We want to make sure that you're informed before the storm, during the storm, and then after the storm, so that we can get those critical messages out to you, and you know what you should be doing, when we're going to come by and pick up your waste and all those things. So what I want to do is take a couple of minutes right now and go through our website. Nicole mentioned a couple of the ways that you can get informed, our alert notification system, and our television station that we have here, Channel 18. But I want to walk you through the website and show you exactly where you can sign up for those notifications and where you could find some other information. So I'll share my screen with you. For those of you not familiar with our website, we are at wellingtonfl.gov. That's our website. So let me share right now. So we're here. When you go to the homepage of our website, this is what it looks like. First, I want to tell you how to sign up for our emergency alert system. So the simplest way to do that is to go through this search bar right here and type in alerts from Wellington. You'll see it is the first option we get right here. You can simply type in alerts as well, and you'll get here. So here you can read about Alert Wellington. Basically, it's a mass notification system. And what it allows us to do is to send, based on your preference, either an email, a phone call, or a text message, or all three if you prefer, to give you information about boil water notices during a storm or any kind of emergency, road closures, severe weather interruptions and things like that. We like to keep this to emergency information. So you're not going to be seeing up here those daily things that we post on social media, what's going on around the village. These are going to be more critical messages. So I invite you to go through this page, just read and get to know more about the system. And then to sign up, it's very easy. Just your name, your last name, your email address, and your phone number, of course. And then you get to choose how you want to receive those notifications. So it's very simple. I'm going to take you back to our homepage of our website once again and direct your attention to this rotating banner right here. These images change on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. So every time you come to our website, you'll find a different image based on what's going on in the village. Of course, we have COVID-19 updates, but the one I want to show you and direct your attention to is our updates and information page. These photos are a link, and when I click on this one, it'll take you to our, what I like to call our Hurricane Center. So here is where this is the launch pad for all the information during the storm, before the storm, after the storm. So here you'll see things from, our latest update, a link to waste collection information, the hurricane guide, closures and cancellations. everything will be here. All the more detailed information that you want to look for, equestrian info and preparing for for hurricane season for equestrians, as well as resources and links and phone numbers. Those phone numbers that Nicole shared will also be on here. So this is very helpful, and this is a page that you probably want to bookmark ahead of a storm. So the next thing I want to talk to you about, and this is the last thing, is something I'm very excited about. We are very active on social media. For those of you who are on Facebook and Twitter, you know that the village posts updates on a daily basis, multiple times a day. And during hurricane season, there is no exception. We get even more active during hurricane season. You'll find that we're posting videos with our village manager doing live updates before a storm or during a storm. And you'll find that we're very much, our presence on social media becomes very much heightened during hurricane season. But for those of you who do not like social media, who are not active on social media, we got you covered. So if you scroll to the bottom of our website, you'll find this box right here where you could toggle between Facebook and Twitter posts. And let's say you don't have a Twitter account, that is fine. You will be able to scroll here and see all the posts we posted on Twitter up to the minute. It updates as soon as we update it on social media, so you will not miss a thing. So we're very excited about this, to have this during this hurricane season, because like I said, our alert notification system will send you things like full water notices, evacuations, things that are more critical. But if you want to know about, what's going on a day-to-day, I'll look at our roads. We like to go out and drive through our roads to show you what they look like after a storm. That's where it's going to be. It's going to be on social media. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions for me, please let me know. Of course, I invite you, since you're on the computer right now or on your phone, I invite you to go to our website, wellingtonfl.gov. Just get familiar with it, see what information we have on there now, and bookmark it, save it as your favorite, so that during a storm, you can go ahead and find that information quickly and easily. So thank you so much for taking a part and for listening to our presentation.
Thank you very much, Liz. At this time, we will take any final questions. And as mentioned earlier, you will be receiving a follow-up email with all of the presenters' contact information from this morning's workshop. On behalf of the Village of Wellington, thank you very much for attending this workshop. And remember, this hurricane season, let's keep Wellington a safe hometown. Thank you.